Hey, do you remember that place we always talked about? You know, the place where kangaroos play down on the sand? And the forests are so ancient that they start to grow houses of their own? Remember you said you wanted to drive all the way down to the edge where the desert meets the sea?
And you said you wanted to see the stars shine brighter in the skies than ever before, and that when you looked out towards the horizon, all you wanted to see was blue.
I think we just found it.
Welcome to the Country Telegraph. Nice to have your company. It's a Thursday. Footy tonight. Go Bulldogs. There you are. And I can hear the chuckling in the background already. Getting my facts right, you see. Now, Victoria's multi-million-dollar Aboriginal cultural heritage laws, looking at some of the news making headlines around Australia in the regional, rural and outback areas, they're causing major cost blowouts and delays in building roads, tracks, pipelines, housing, environmental works, and even a CFA station. Under state legislation, not a sod can be turned on any project until the site has been assessed by the local registered Aboriginal party, each of which holds a monopoly over the process and fees they charge. What could possibly go wrong? I still hear the chuckling in the background. Control yourself. The Victorian government has announced an extra $100 million to replace the CFA's ageing tanker and pumper fleets, but failed to mention, maybe it would be paid over the next 10 years. So don't get too excited. You'll get 2 trucks a year. Be happy with that. Southern New South Wales irrigation valleys are set for a much smaller cotton crop this year, with production expected to be around half of the almost 1 million bales picked last season. Also looking at what's happening around Australia, dairy farmers across northern Victoria have cautiously welcomed recent price support moves from the retail and processing sectors, while warning more sustained action is needed to keep farm businesses viable. And finally, just waiting for my teleprompter, it's very slow today. Maybe it's fitting with the host. Buller Dairy Foods has bucked the trend of other milk processors and delivered a support payment to its 200-odd suppliers that covers the whole 25-26 season's production. So that's good news if you're a dairy farmer. Shortly we'll be talking fertiliser here on the Country Telegraph. As the Middle East crisis has shown, Australian agriculture is highly dependent on synthetic fertilisers. Biological solutions cannot replace totally synthetic fertilisers, but perhaps they can significantly reduce reliance on them and would like to find out more. Angus Irwin is a founder and managing director of Neutrog. Now, that develops and delivers premium biologically activated products for farmers, horticulturists, viticulturalists, and professional gardeners. Now, their R&D, which is research and development program, includes world-leading experts in the study of microbes as a means of providing sustainable, effective solutions to increasing yields and soil health. First of all, Angus, thanks for joining us.
Welcome. Good to be here.
I could hear you chuckling in the background. I think that was you. It's nice to have that interaction, you see. Tell me about your thoughts on the current, the impact at the moment with the, just with the bloke on the land, or the girl on the land, and the fertiliser bit. They're not getting everything they need, are they?
No, a long way from it, Mike. I mean, it's a really scary situation. I speak to farmers every day, and it's just a shocking situation where there's no real end in sight at this point in time.
So where do we go from here with these farmers? Because, I mean, it's not just, oh well, you won't have that many veggies in the supermarket. It's a whole gamut. It's a whole supply chain, from the grower right through to the consumer. Surely the government would be doing something more than crossing its legs and chanting. I mean, because at the moment, that's all they seem to be doing. And even though we do have some coming in, it doesn't augur well, does it, for the next 6 to 12 months?
No, and I think all it's doing is probably masking a wider problem insofar as urea and nitrogenous fertilisers are really not a sustainable long-term proposition. I think we use something like 3.8 million tonnes of urea in Australia each year. Nitrogenous fertilisers use up 2% of the world's energy, and when you think that we've got a double output in the next 20 years just to feed the world, you wonder where that's all going to come from. And Australia is in particular a problem because it imports most of its urea, whereas at the same time there's two plants that are struggling to get up and running, one producing 1 million tonnes, which is at Lee Creek, and another off the coast of Western Australia that's looking at producing 2.3 million tonnes. And if we could get those plants up and running, you're a long way to solving the problem in Australia, but it's a regulatory issue, and the regulations are getting tougher, not easier.
Look, it's true biological fertilisers can't replace synthetics because of the lower nutrient density and slower action. But what percentage of yield can be increased with biological fertilisers compared to synthetic fertilisers in the medium term?
Now, look, I was just doing some sums before we came on air, and look, the interesting thing is that in Australia we grow 750 million chickens each year, and that 750 million chickens produces 1.8 kilos per chicken, which gives us about 135 million tonnes of manure, and that manure contains 4% nitrogen, which is 5.4 million tonnes, which is actually greater than the amount of urea we bring in. And the irony of that is most of that manure is spread on the ground, and the nitrogen is lost to the atmosphere, and then the microbes actually use up all the nitrogen in the soil to break down the chicken manure. So you actually get a double whammy for not utilising it properly. And so a big part from our approach is a couple of things. When you apply urea to the ground to a crop, what actually happens is that it actually closes down the loop, which triggers the plant to recruit nitrogen fixing bacteria. And so again, you get a double whammy, and it's almost a need of a change of thought process, because those free living bacteria can actually fix about 40 kilos a hectare of nitrogen. So when you are using 40 kilos of nitrogen is about equivalent of 80 kilos of urea per hectare. And so there's a bit of a double whammy when people do use organic or biological products, in that it takes a little while to kick back into the normal system, but you'll yield as much out of a tonne processed poultry manure as you will out of a tonne of single super. And so it's really a change of thought process and people taking the plunge, and it's a really difficult, if I recall you were from Mildura and you know some hardcore farmers, it's very, very hard to change a system that's been ingrained in the generations of farmers. And so it's probably times like this we've got a great opportunity for people to learn.
Yeah, well, and you're right. If I said to them, say Mildura, use chicken poop, and they'd say, "Oh, mate, it's just chicken shit." But truly, that's what it is, and that's what we're trying to get them to use more of. Why? Can you just tell me why when we talked about they're set in their ways, but surely, okay, look at the productivity working hand in hand with what they know. They're going to become even a better business, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, then, look, the other thing people don't realise is that nearly 70% of chemical fertiliser, when it's applied to the soil, gets locked up. So it's actually there to be mined if you can look at some or try biological options, because microbes will actually, what it does is it actually breaks the bond. The microbes secrete organic acids, which breaks the bond that locks the fertiliser up. And so, I don't think biologicals is the total answer, but it's probably a little bit like years and years ago when we started looking at solar power. People would laugh at it many years on, and where it's at now is quite incredible. And maybe that's where it's going to get to with fertiliser. We just need to get more people following logic and trying it.
Yeah, I think fertiliser makes things grow. I think when you put those solar panels and large lumps of ground, not much grows around it. Maybe they could use fertiliser. I don't know. How much will you increase production this year?
We will probably be up by as much as 50%. But again, we are governed by regulations ourselves. So to increase our production beyond what's there is a 2 or 3 year process. So it's a regulatory scenario. So it's nothing's easy in this country as it stands. And I think when you've got massive issues like the sovereignty and scenario that's happening with fertiliser, it needs to be a whole of government approach, because if we just go to our regulators, they're only interested in regulating. They're not actually interested in what the wider problem is.
What about export prospects?
We're exporting plenty, because again, the problem, I think Vietnam, where we spend most of ours, they import something like 6 million tonnes of fertiliser each year. And so every single spare tonne we have goes in a container to Vietnam, and so that's probably a little bit sad for us as well, because we'd rather seeing it go out in Australian farms.
Yeah, but again though, you have, you will, it's sort of like you got to go tap 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 tap, and eventually you get through to it, and then you won't get rid of them. They want to buy you beer with some chicken shit, all that sort of stuff.
Well, the funny thing is that they buy our material into Vietnam, clearly they bring it in from all over the world, but they absolutely favour the Australian material because it's manufactured in the best manner.
That's excellent. How do you manufacture chicken poop?
Well, the first thing the whole process takes about 18 weeks. We bring the material in, we spray it with some microbes that help speed the process up and help get rid of pathogens, also to reduce odour. And once it's been turned a few times, we then screen out the bedding material, and then we screen it to a sub 6 millimetre material, and then we put it through a pelleting operation, which is not too dissimilar to a stock feed manufacturing process.
Incredible. Because tell me the difference with what you do, and because I lived on a block. And you'd often just, again, for the garden only, but you go in there, get a couple of buckets of the remnants of the chicken feed, and you put it into which is chicken stuff, and you put it into a bucket and put it around the roses, and it looks like the Amazon jungle before you know it. But so the difference between what is on the ground and the difference with what you're providing, what is the difference?
Well, look, the main difference, when we very, very first started, I suppose it's best described like this, when we very first started, we were literally selling or producing pelletised product, and we were having to compete with raw material spread on that was literally spread. And as you'd probably know, up in Mildura and the likes, the blockies absolutely love volume, so it was really hard for them to comprehend the 1 tonne of our product could outperform 10 tonne of the same stuff in a raw form. And effectively what we found is that horticulturalists would actually spread the manure on their farms in winter, and the reason they spread it on their farms in winter was that so it didn't burn the young plants, that's the nitrogen. And effectively what they were doing is literally allowing all of that nitrogen to be lost to the atmosphere. And so the effective difference of what we do is that when we compost it, we're actually able to stabilise the nitrogen into a form that is readily available to the plants and doesn't burn them. But the other thing is that by composting it, you make the other nutrients available to the plants. And so really the reality of it is that 1 tonne of properly processed material outperforms 10 tonnes of raw material.
Incredible, incredible. And you're not talking shit.
No.
I think
I do a bit of that though.
You can tell I'm from Mildura, but don't hold that against me. Just before we wind up, what are your current priorities?
Well, funnily enough, we've just put in plans to produce set up another factory in Tamworth. So we just applied for a Department of Primary Industry grant, and we've put some plans together, and hopefully we can get that over the line. But that's going to be a massive project. Tamworth are one of the biggest producers of poultry in Australia. I think their processing plant, their processes something like 3 million birds per day. That's a lot of chickens. And effectively, the other sort of sad part is that the chicken waste or chicken manure is actually a limit to their ability to grow, because you just can't get rid of it in the local area in that current non-value added form. So that's the most exciting thing that we've got on the go. That'll double our footprint in Australia. And I guess on top of that, we've got some pretty exciting things going on with our biologicals, where getting some terrific results, and so looking at expanding that, particularly in the inhibition of disease. And so clearly what will happen is that disease is actually probably the biggest limiting factor to production. So to be able to food production, so to be able to limit disease, it does a number of things. It increases production dramatically, but it also allows the plant to perform, roots to grow, and then you get carbon capture as well. And then it's a circle back into the positive rather than into the negative.
I find it fascinating, I've got to tell you. I mean, and I think within diversity, out comes these great solutions, or a renewed focus on old technology or old ideas. And your business, I mean, not only is it going to be, and government should be looking at this very strongly, because it would solve a number of problems. It would give us our almost food security, that at least they can grow it. The next thing is to get it from A to B, but it's such a great business, and it's just a pity you were in Adelaide following the Adelaide Crows. I think you're a Crow supporter, aren't you?
Of course I am, sadly.
Yeah. Anyway, can't help bad luck, but the rest of you are pretty good.
Could be worse. It could be the other one.
Now, I'm a St Kilda supporter. You know that we had a mixed week, I suppose. We won one and lost the next one. We shouldn't have lost that one. Umpire was against us. Angus Irwin, if somebody wants to find out more about you and your business, how do they do that?
Look at www.neutrog.com.au.
Absolutely brilliant. I think it's fantastic. Thank you for your time. We'll do more of these, because I think there's actually is so much to explore and discuss. And if you'll be part of it, we'd love to have you back. Thank you again.
Yeah, love to. One of the things that might be worth getting on is our head of R&D, Dr. Huey Strower, who can go into more of the science, and he's terrific in explaining things in a better manner than I can, probably, in the science background.
But you're better looking. You told me that. Angus Irwin, thank you very much for your time. Talk to you later. This is the Country Telegraph.
What fresh produce means to me, it's seasonal. So it's at Christmas time, it's mangoes. In springtime, it's stone fruit. That's what fresh produce means to me.
Fresh food to me means food that doesn't have preservatives and stuff on it.
What are those green things?
It means healthiness, probably, like to me personally.
It means quite a lot to me because I don't want to actually have dirty food.
Health, variety.
Well, all food means everything to me.
Fresh food gives me the best food, best in nutrition and usually taste as well.
Something that doesn't come in a package of any sort, that hasn't been processed in any way beyond perhaps cutting it up.
Fresh food means healthier options, crisp flavors.
Apple!
I think food security is when you have access to a lot of food.
I think it's very important.
Just having fruits and vegetables available to us all the time, which is great.
Food security is when we have enough food for everyone.
Well, I think it means having a local source for the food. I think if COVID taught us anything is we need to be self-sufficient and not rely on imports.
Going to the grocery store and knowing that you're going to get everything that you need in one place.
Food security means having food available to everyone in WA as and when they need it, a constant supply.
I've never really thought about that actually.
I would not be happy because a lot of my meals are actually made of fruit and mostly veg actually.
Would you be sad? No, I'll have chocolate.
If we didn't have access to fresh food, we'd probably be a lot more unhealthy.
I think that would be bad. I think we'd have to rely on imports from other places where we maybe wouldn't know what sort of quality we're going to get.
You're either going to have to get it from other sources, so there's going to be price, food miles involved, or you're going to go without.
Personally, I think it'd impact me a lot because I do eat a lot of fruit and vegetables.
Well, I think a lot of businesses would go under.
Fresh food connects us all. Our food system is strong, but not invincible.
Climate, cost of production, and consumer expectations are challenging producers' profitability. Local food production is essential for food security. Food security is economic and lifestyle security.
Research that creates awareness and sparks action results in impact.
Innovation is already in the ground and growing. We're investing in smarter, more sustainable ways to grow.
It's public health. It's our shared resilience.
We invest in local food systems, we invest in our future.
Rafe Champion is an independent scholar trained in agricultural science, sociology, history and philosophy of science. Now, he's maintained long-term studies in philosophy, economics and cultural issues and has numerous academic publications and self-published books. Rafe has written a recent piece for the Spectator called The Leggless Green Energy Transition, where he talks about droughts. Well, wind droughts, which is brand new to me, by the way, amongst other things in this climate policy, chaos, shambles, whatever you want to do, or should we say a suicide note. First of all, Rafe, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
Wind drought, I thought I heard it all, but tell me, and I was reading about it, and it actually makes a lot of sense, but no one talks about it, do they?
Well, there are three stories to be told about wind droughts. One is to explain why they absolutely prevent any transition to wind and solar. And the second is why the meteorologists didn't warn us. And the third is why the authorities didn't check before they spent billions on the impossible transition. So there's three stories there, but I guess today we're focusing on why wind power won't work.
Yeah, I'm just intrigued with this because if you have a drought, you have less water. If you have a flood, you have too much water. If you have no wind, it probably makes the turbines fairly ineffective unless we blow very hard on it. Do we have many wind droughts?
Every year or couple of years, there'll be a period of 1 or 2 or maybe even occasionally 3 days and nights with not enough wind to generate a significant amount of power. And when you're talking about windless nights, you've got no solar, you've got no wind as well. None. No renewable energy on windless nights. End of story.
So Chris Bowen pushing the wind turbines. If you look at the Great Dividing Range in Queensland, it's just desecration of the worst possible kind and plonking up all these windmills, as Donald Trump would call them. If there's no wind and we have no other backup, except for the ever-ready batteries at home in the torch, we're fairly well, people would say we're probably stuffed. Would that be about right?
Precisely correct. And that means we'll have to keep burning coal for decades until we've got nuclear.
I'm sorry, I just saw and heard Chris Bowen collapse on the ground when you mentioned that word, 4-letter word, by the way, coal.
Coal.
But, and you're very, very intelligent. Can you just tell me why governments are so stupid?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they're under pressure from 3 different sources. There's the climate cult, where all the Greens are putting pressure on the politicians. There are the wind and solar industry that are bribing the politicians and funding the climate cult. And then you get the politicians who can make their way with votes from the cultists and financial assistance from the lobbies, if not while they're on the job, presumably when they retire and get lucrative board positions.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? Can we predict wind droughts?
No. Oh no, well, we know they'll come when there's a high pressure system. When there's a high pressure system, the winds will be low, and from time to time, the high pressure systems linger for up to 3 days over the whole of southeastern Australia. And that's when you get the most serious and widespread wind droughts.
I have to tell you, it's just incredible. Again, if someone could tell me why politicians are so stupid, I'd be much appreciated. You could just send us a note online, anybody. They're also obsessed, aren't they? Politicians are obsessed, and we have politicians being obsessed with batteries. In your humble opinion, sir, would you say they're a scam?
They are. The capacity of batteries is a factor of 100. They're 100 times too small to be useful. The only thing they're good for is stabilising into the fluctuations in the wind and solar, the gusts of wind and clouds, which wouldn't be necessary if we didn't have wind and solar corrupting the system. The other use they have is to make money for people who charge them in the middle of the day when they get paid to charge, and then they discharge at the peak price in dinner time, and they get paid at the top rate, having been already paid to charge. But that is a game that's not going to last too much longer, because the more batteries come in, the less profits they'll get out of that. But it does nothing to sustain the grid through the night.
So, but normally progress means that things get better. That's what progress does. You get better and better, and hopefully can enjoy life a little more, because that's what, the brief abbreviation of progress is. But by progressing down the path, inverted commas, progressing with wind turbines and other renewable projects, what we're doing is we're placing our entire nation more or less a bit like the old Australian game, you know, the two-up, heads you win, tails you lose. In this case, heads we lose and tails we lose, because if there's no wind, we have no industry, we have nothing. What do they say? I started with nothing and I'll end up with nothing when I pass away, but you know, many people are going to be alive. So what do we do? How do we fix it? Because the batteries aren't cheap, they're farcical. I mean, it's again quite it's almost a fictitious argument from governments. What do we do? How do we fix it? In your opinion?
There's a fairly simple way to fix it. It means teaching everybody to become aware of wind droughts by simply looking at the appropriate site or widget on your phone or your computer. Look, check how much wind and solar are there at sunrise or breakfast time and sunset or dinner time. And you can go to different sites. There's the Android site and the NemWatch widget, and you look at a glance and see how much wind and solar are there. And if enough people just do that daily for a few weeks, they'll realise it's just not going to work. And then they can start putting real pressure on their local member and any candidates that come up for election, and they can say, what are you going to do about this? It's got to be a matter of widespread, overwhelming public opinion and public awareness of wind droughts. And we've been sending mail to a list of 100 journalists for 6 years, and none of those journalists have told the story. You tell me why the journalists aren't telling the story.
Well, because they're not journalists, and also if you go right back to, you know, probably to the start of time, you don't bite the hand that feeds you, and government does provide, because of the advertising dollar is been stretched from all angles. You know, you don't want to upset the one that's paying half your bills for you, so they're not going to do it. And also, I have to say, and I think you would agree, our education system has failed miserably, because we still believe that wind turbines and solar farms and witches and goblins are going to, you know, make our life better, and they're not going to do that.
Don't get me started on education. but I'll tell you, I think One Nation will tip the scales, because One Nation is the group that is going to be fearless and indomitable, telling people about what they need to know, and among the things they need to know is wind droughts. So a lot depends on them and any other good-hearted people and good journalists to get the word out, get people aware of wind droughts.
Incredible. Your article in the Spectator, the Leggless Green Energy Transmission, first of all, a great title. Can you just expand on that for us?
Well, we can see that the attempt to make the transition to wind and solar is resting on three legs. The three legs are wind power, solar power, and batteries. Now, three legs. So the solar leg fails every night. The wind power leg fails during wind droughts, and it's catastrophic when there's a wind drought at night. And the battery leg is just pathetic, because it, as I said, it's 100 times, the capacity of batteries is 100 times too small to be helpful to get through a windless night. Pretty simple, really.
It is. It's very simple indeed. If somebody wanted to read your article, read the Leggless, I love the title. I think it's magnificent. I think a good title is a sort of a hook to get you interested. The Leggless Green Energy Transmission. It's in the Spectator. You
better subscribe to the Spectator, hadn't you?
Indeed, we must. I think it's Rowan D. You've got to keep him happy.
Well, it's Alexandra Marshall who edits my material.
She wouldn't have to do much, and she'd be petrified, wouldn't she?
No, she improves it. No, she's a good editor.
Yes, actually, she's very good. We're not going to tell her otherwise. You might. I'm not going to do it. Look, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. I think this is just fantastic. I'd like you to come back on again in the near future, because I think there are many other things we could talk about without being arrested. So if you are interested, sir, would you come back on?
Oh, look, I love it. I love to get the exposure. I like to get the feeling of reaching out and getting to people in a way that you don't when you write. I can talk to you, I get the sense I'm talking to someone. I can imagine lots of, dozens of other people tuning in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great lift to me.
Thank you so much. As they would say, Rafe, you're a champion. Thank you, sir, for your time. This is the Country Telegraph.
Outback Queensland. It's stepping back about 100 million years.
It's soaking in the surrounds.
It's wide open for adventure.
It's where dinner puts up a fight.
And it's your round for new stories. It's switching on easy mode and a whole lot of incredible.
Outback Queensland. It's something else. Book your holiday now.
Australian made means made right here in Australia. But it's more than just where it's made. It means made by Australians, backing local businesses and jobs. Made for the way we live, right here. It's why buying Australian made just feels right. Australian made, made right here.
You're beautiful. I love you.
Victorian firefighters have welcomed a huge funding boost in next month's state budget. Aspen Blomfield is live. Aspen, the state government won't say how they will fund it though.
That's right, Kieran. It's unclear whether this will come from that controversial emergency services levy. Let's take a quick look at the breakdown of this funding boost for the CFA. $100 million will be spent to upgrade the state's ageing fleet. $26 million is being set aside for CFA station builds, land acquisition and upgrades. Finally, $22 million will provide better training and new protective gear for volunteers. And I just want to show you one of those fire stations which will be upgraded. It is Charlton Fire Brigade. They received a new tanker several years ago, but it is currently too big for the heritage listed station. They will be one of the fire brigades who will receive funding, and local firefighters have already told us that they are very excited about this development, but it is long overdue. Forest Fire Management Victoria will also receive more than $200 million in funding. That'll go to the acquisition of more than a dozen new assets, including aerial firefighters. Now, as we mentioned, it's unclear whether this funding will come from that controversial emergency services levy. That was introduced last year, and it's expected to raise around $3 billion in 2 years' time. But we've seen over the past few years intense backlash from farmers and those in regional Victoria over that levy. Lots of protests here at State Parliament. Some of these farmers will see fee increases of up to 100%. And last year, the state government announced that they won't raise that levy until July 2027. This comes off the back of an announcement yesterday, Kieran, a major funding boost for the state's police force. Both the firefighting and policing agencies have faced scrutiny over funding shortfalls and workplace shortages over the past few years.
Aspen, thank you very much. We'll stay in touch.
Well, there you are. That's there's John there. You can wait. That's the Victorian government has spent $100 million on trucks and pumpers. We're going to find out what a pumper is too, by the way. And it, in this next budget, and the budget after. So they're going to spread that $100 million right across for 10 years. So what they're saying is they're going to give $10 million per year, and you could buy a couple of trucks and a pumper or two, and Bob's your uncle. And we'll find out more about Bob shortly from John Houston. Knows all about Bob. The Victorian government has announced an extra $100 million to replace the CFA's ageing tanker and pumper fleets, but failed to mention that the 2026-2027 budget allocation was to be distributed over 10 years. Clever accounting there. Emergency Services Minister Vicky Ward announced the extra $10 million a year last week. Now, John Houston is CFA Volunteers President, and he joins us to explain and extrapolate if he doesn't fall over fainting all the time talking about such crap. John, tell me if I'm wrong. Is there an election on the horizon?
Oh, well, obviously they've come out with the frankincense and myrrh and trying to woo us all over.
It's incredible. Over 10 years.
Oh, unbelievable. I think I'll run down to the local Ford shop and I might buy a few cars and tell them, look, I'll pay it off over 10 years. So that should work, shouldn't it?
But first of all, I need you to apologise because they do know what they're doing. That's why they bought a really big truck that didn't fit into the fire station.
Yeah, and look, unfortunately, over 10 years, the Charlton may not see their station for another 6, 7 or 8 years. So, I mean, that's the disappointing part about all this, that they don't click their fingers and the money's spent and the resources are there. It's still going to take time, unfortunately.
Incredible, isn't it? Now, I have to ask you, because I'm intrigued. And by the way, it's a family show. What's a pumper?
Yeah, well, the pumper it pumps a lot more water a lot quicker, and yeah, it's just a better appliance, more so used for transfer of water and out of hydrants and stuff like that. So,
how important are they in fires?
They're generally used more so in around cities and stuff like that, where you've got bulk water supply. So we can use them to transfer water quicker. The tankers will keep the water up to the pumper and then they can transfer it a lot quicker. So that's generally how we use it out in the rural areas where we can.
I think you mentioned at one stage, one of our conversations, which we weren't taken off the air or sued by anyone. I think you mentioned that that your trucks, some of them, in the 90s.
Yes. So I think we've actually got one at there's 5 trucks. I'm just looking at the chart here now. 5 trucks that are 1989. So, yeah. So we've got actually, while we've got the chart in front of me, there's 48 trucks that are not, this is primary tankers, not brigade-owned tankers. They're generally replaced at the 20-year mark. So that's the ones that brigades have to raise a lot of the funds themselves. But of 1991 tankers that are still operational, there's 48 in the fleet. And in 2024, 34 came into the fleet. So there's actually more tankers that are of primary brigade or primary tankers. There's 14 more tankers that are 1991 as opposed to last year's model. So
incredible. I mean, it's I suppose part of your advertising or marketing or recruitment campaign could be join the CFA and drive something really old.
Yeah, well, we've got heritage plates on most of our tankers, so really? we get cheap rego.
Oh dear. I mean, surely the government would be embarrassed, but and as he's just dropped out there, so what I'll do is I'll push that button and I'll keep talking until he comes back, because think about it. The heritage plates are on these fire tankers. It's incredible, John. We're going to bring you back again. You disappeared. I wasn't sure what was happening.
Oh, sorry. I'm on the phone and people were trying to ring me, so sorry about that.
Tell them to go away.
Yeah, I did. Quickly.
Oh, but your trucks, though, and being serious, if you were after people to join the CFA, and you, I mean, just think of the insurance. Am I safe? Well, I don't know about that, because you're not. Because they.
Look, it's just mayhem, and this is why our volunteer retention and recruitment is just really suffers. not only are we asking people to go out and fight fires in horrendous conditions, and if you're, according to climate change, these fires are getting worse and worse every year. So we're asking people to put their lives even more on the risk, and we're doing so in unsafe tankers that haven't got the latest mod cons that everyone expects in safety industry like we are now.
What about other equipment? Because put it this way: if I was a firey with you guys, and I was on a truck that was commissioned in 1989, let me tell you, I would not be wearing those big boots. I'd have sneakers on that could run really quickly.
Yeah, look, it's just ludicrous. Why should we have to put up? Why should we have people on the back of the trucks when if there's a burnover situation or a dangerous situation that they've actually got to stop the truck, they've got to get off, walk around and hop in the cab. And if there's already three people in the cab, they've got to brave the conditions on the back themselves. So, it's just not on.
Will this affect your numbers? Because it's obvious the government doesn't really care a whole lot about it. Given the big $100 million over 10 years. I mean, perhaps what you could do is ask Jacinta to pop down to the CFMEU and ask if she could have a little bit back. Out of 30 billion, maybe a little. Just help us out with a few trucks so we don't burn to death.
Well, we'd probably just be able to sit down at the trough and ask for some scraps as they're feeding and gorging themselves on the 15 billion. So look, it's ludicrous the way that our state looks after our firefighters, and that's volunteer and career firefighters. We're both in this together, and we're both struggling together.
What's the Victorian fleet like compared to other states?
Well, our fleet's getting replaced at a lesser rate. A lot of the other ones are, they don't have an average age of what we do, so their tankers are getting replaced. The companies that actually do the bodies are putting them on. It's just saying that the other states are building tankers at a lot larger rate than what the Victorian government's doing it. So it's maybe we need to move to another state so we can actually drive a decent tanker.
Queensland, by the way, we'd like to see you here, bro. Could we got pineapples, bananas, beaches, Botox, and everything.
Maybe we could throw a few bananas at the fire when they come down here. So
throw a banana on the barbie. I like that one. Just thinking because the Victorian government was very excited to take $3 billion from the emergency services with the emergency services tax. I mean, that's a fair chunk. Do you think perhaps they could have allocated a little more to you guys? Because being serious, it's putting your lives in danger.
Look, our figures we've got is over 3 years. It's 5.4 billion. I think your figures were over 2. So when you look at it, they're giving us an extra $10 million a year, and inflation's going to swallow that up. And this is just political spin, because at the end of the day, we're right in the middle of a damaging public inquiry that's really showing the government up for the disrespect that they have for the firefighters, as I said, career and volunteer. So, it's just, and with an election around the corner, it just smacks of political spin. They're just trying to shut us up and make us go away. Well, it ain't working, and it's beauty that the media have actually jumped straight on this and called them out.
Do you think the public understand, I mean, not the bushies, but the people in the cap cities and major markets, and not just Victoria, right around Australia, they're pretty ignorant when it comes to the crises on the land. As long as they have something in the supermarket, it's, she'll be right, mate. Do you think they understand that we actually do need to look after the CFA?
I probably don't, and I don't think they quite fully grasp. And this is not just the CFA. This is our communities out in the bush as well. Our farmers are really struggling through other things as well. So I don't think they fully understand. I think they get the picture a little bit. And this government's just come out with this political spin saying we're giving them 365 million over the two agencies, 145 for us. And then everyone just thinks, that's solved the problem. What are the firefighters whinging about? Well, when you break it down, like I said, it's 20 tankers. And if you take inflation, next year that's 19 tankers, that's 18 tankers, and that's 17 tankers the years after that. Well, we need conservatively 150 tankers per year just to catch up and bring our oldest fleet back to the 20-year mark where it should be. So, we're looking at that ratio for 7 years, and then it's management levels from then on. So, 20 tankers is nowhere near the ratio that it needs to be at. It's nowhere near 150. So it's a joke, really.
I suppose the way to get around this is with a new government. What's your thoughts on Jess Wilson and her mob?
Yeah, look, our conversations have been respectful at the moment. I think she's definitely trying her best, but it's the biggest problem is going to be what can they do and how much this government now has hamstrung them. And look. I don't know how they're going to make it work. They're going to have to make it work because we're not going to be sitting on our hands here. When they get in, and they need to start putting out some policies. Really, like they've been pretty slack on that. How are they going to solve these issues? But they need to put those policies out. But it's just we need to see what the opposition have got, and then what other parties have got as well. Because it's not an automatic given that we're going to get out the other end what we need. And the whole of the community, everybody, that's all Victorians, either directly or indirectly, are paying for this fire services levy and think they're supporting our firefighters and our other emergency services workers. But that money's not getting passed on. 5.4 billion over 3 years, it's not getting where it should be. And, and the Liberal government need to tell us how they're going to do it.
They do, and I don't think they will. I think it's going to be, I don't think they'll get in, by the way. And that's saying something after what Jacinta Allen has done to Victoria. But if you look at the bush, they wouldn't get anywhere near a government. But two different markets. One's a bush. You can do a little more, be a little harsher, don't give a shit sort of thing. And then you got the major markets where you need to show that you're saving the planet. And that's part of the, if you see the farmers, and I'll go into this once we finish this, the farmers around Victoria, government is just acting like a communist state. We're going to come in and we're going to do what we like to your land, and you have got no rights. And I think, I know you have to be a little bit careful because of your position as the El Presidente and singing superstar, but you have to, but we have to be wary of the people on the land because they actually do have the power. No food, no resources, and you find the major markets will stop. So I think government needs to take a little more care with the farmers. And I'll play a clip shortly. You might want to hang around and watch it because what they were doing, this is, I think, James Burke, and it's incredible. The audacity of government, and I think the same thing with the CFA. You guys you're looking after the bush. You're looking after people, their homes, their livelihoods, their lives, all that sort of stuff. Putting yours at risk. Surely to goodness the government can pull its finger out and look after you and give you something that's not a heritage listed truck.
Oh, look, I can't understand why they're treating people in the rural community. And look, most of our volunteers are, well, not most, probably 50% of them are either off the land or were on the land. So, when most of your volunteer force is farmer orientated or in the farming community and directly rely on farming, it's just sad to see that the way the government is actually treating everybody. And I think they've lost their way. And part of what we need to do is, as a group, and what we're trying to do is educate the people in the city that what's happening is not right. And they're paying for it and they're not getting its services delivered. And that's the service that's in the rural areas, but it's also a service that's in the metropolitan areas as well. FRV are not getting what they should be getting, and those people are going to find out when a fire is in their backyard. That's when they're going to realise, and it's too late then. So they need to step up now, and our job is to educate them, but we need the people to stand with us as well.
It's very serious. Maybe you should show them some video. I'm sure you have. When I was with the Army Reserve, I was supposed to go into the Duntroon. I decided not to. But the Army Reserve, and they're teaching us, of what bombs can do, and some of the graphics were terrible. You would have seen similar images, if not in your own lifetime, but at least video. And fires, you do not want to get burnt. You do not want it anywhere near you. And what you need is a good firefighting force. And at the moment, you got one leg free and the rest of you is tied down because of a very ineffective, corrupt government. And I feel sorry for you. And I think you're doing a great job. Maybe the solution is for you to start promoting and getting off your backside, singing some more songs, and raising money that way. I mean, another what's his name? Iglesias. We're going to have John Iglesias.
I've got a couple more out. So there's one just about came out in the Angels mould.
Oh,
so I think you'll probably guess where that one's coming, or where that one leads to. So yeah.
I would say what you need to do though is give me permission to play it, because if I don't get permission, they write to me and say, you've played a song that's copywritten, and I can't do much about it. So give me permission and we'll play it. And
you can play as many as you like, Mike.
Well, and what you should do though, truly, is a way of raising money. Use that, because they are very good songs.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do. The problem is that I just can't get them on airplay. The local radios and that, for whatever reason, don't want to play them, whether they're too political or whatever. But that is part of it. But look, at the end of the day, I'm making probably $10 a month or $20 a month out of it. So I'm not going to support too many tankers at that rate. But who knows? Maybe I need to be who's that famous painter that died, and then when he was dead, he became famous, and so maybe that's what'll happen to me songs, maybe.
But see, that $10 per month, that's a little more than the government's paying. So you're doing a great job.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we could probably go to the bank and get a loan on that, I reckon.
Isn't that terrible? No, but I mean, all you want is AI to change the way you look, because at the moment you're looking like JJ Cale. He passed away, so that's not a good look. It's always a pleasure talking, and we will play that. And I think we should put our heads together and use this as a fundraising exercise and raise more, because I think and what you should be doing, here's something, go to your community stations. They will play it.
Yeah.
And make yourself available for an interview, talk about what it's for, and I bet you 10 cents to nothing that you'll get that exposure you need.
I think I need you as my manager, Mike, I think.
Oh, I got no time to scratch myself. Thanks. John Houston, if somebody wants to find out more about the CFA, to talk about the heritage-listed draft horses, how do they do that?
CFA Volunteers Group Facebook page. We're on TikTok as well and Instagram. So, follow us, jump in, or you can contact us. We do have a webpage as well. So, yeah, look us up. Get on board, and let's advocate for a better firefighting system for the whole of our state.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. John Houston, thank you very much. Hang around if you want to see this next bit. It's a shocker. It shows you that Victoria is the place not to be. That was John Houston, by the way, behind us when John moves to Queensland. That's Cooktown in the background. And what a magnificent state Queensland is, I have to say that. It's one of the great joys of my life, and I enjoy it very much. One of the great sadnesses of my life is seeing what's happening in Victoria, and the idea that government can send a bunch of dim-witted people out to go onto your land whenever they want to, at the bequest of the government, to save the planet. That's what they're trying to do. Save the planet will destroy everybody's lives. One thing they need to realise is that you can't keep pushing people around. You cannot do that. You have to show respect. Let me show you the respect from this gentleman to the people that wanted to come onto his land. He deserves a medal and a beer, and John Houston will buy that for him. He doesn't know that, he does now. Have a look at this. I'll come back to you after this.
Filming you on my body worn camera. My team has some of them filming as well. My name's Eleanor Gorton. I'm an authorised officer with my colleague here, Tim Lubb. We've got the wider VNI West project team here as well. Today we're attempting to facilitate land access. Is the landowner here?
Yep.
Could you please confirm your name for me?
You would already know that.
I do already know that. It'd be fantastic if you could confirm it for me,
Rob
Robert.
Cook.
Thank you, Robert. Today we are attempting to facilitate land access to your property. You would have received a notice in the mail about this. Have you read it?
And you would have received a notice from the Ombudsman and my
excuses for not allowing access today. Refer to the emails. If you don't want to refer to the emails, piss off.
I do have to ask you to please unlock the gate and allow us
I will not be unlocking the gate. Refer to the emails, piss off.
Robert, I do have to let you know today that it is illegal in the Electricity Industry Act 2000 to not unlock this gate and allow us access to your property.
The Ombudsman has given me the right, here in writing, and you would have received it last night as well, to refuse access. You already know what we're up to. Now I've said it nicely and piss off. Next time it won't be so nice.
Okay, Robert, I do have to give you a warning that
Warn me all you
failure
like.
to unlock this gate and allow us access today.
You're not coming in.
Okay, I'm now giving you a direction under section 93 BR of the Electricity Industry Act 2000 to allow us access to your property by unlocking the gate.
No.
Okay, Robert. I do have to let you know that anything you say to me will be potentially used as evidence against you.
And you too, because you've been warned about what we are doing, and the insurance won't even cover you if you come in here with what we are doing and fall ill. So get in your car and leave.
Okay, is there anything that we can do to facilitate access to your property today, Robert?
You already know, once the program is finished, then it might be able to be resolved. Now that's in writing. Go home and finish your breakfast.
I can see that you're in your
So there you are. Very upsetting, isn't it? Very upsetting. It wasn't James Burke, it was Robert somebody. And good on you, Robert. You deserve a beer and you deserve also a bit of a hug. Those Neanderthal gorillas. What, Neanderthal gorilla? Is there such a thing as a Neanderthal gorilla? Somebody described people like that as those that remove the skin off their knuckles. So that's maybe what they are. They're knuckle scrapers, that's right. How dare they? This is this guy's farm. Truly, what about our rights and our freedom? And I'm sort of going off tangent here, but the Victorian government stuffed the state. It stuffed it incredibly. We have firefighters who are risking their lives on heritage vehicles, 30, 40 years old. Probably need a horse instead. At least, it's not going to break down. It's just a disgrace. Jacinta Allen, I have to say, you are dreadful. You need to treat people with respect. And as for the opposition, Jess Wilson, I think renewables are great. Treat people with respect. That's all you have to do. And guess what? You'll be amazed at how they react to you. But if you walk in and say, we're going to do what we like, otherwise anything you say might be taken down in evidence and used against you, you pack of whackers. So I'll be careful what I say, but I'm very angry about that. I think we need to look after the people on the land. It's a bloody hard life. At the moment, it's tougher than normal because of the fuel crisis. We need to show some compassion. We need to look after those that look after the rest of the country. Speaking of the rest of the country, let's find out what the weather holds for us while I take some Valium, probably a cup of tea to calm down and practice my yoga.
G'day from the Bureau with your national weather forecast around the country for Friday, the 24th of April. And that dominant high pressure system has continued to bring in warm, dry and sunny weather to much of central and southeastern Australia, while onshore flow is kind of bringing showers to much of the New South Wales and almost all of the Queensland coast. But most of those showers in Queensland will be fairly coastal, although in New South Wales you can see they'll spread a little bit further inland, and that's similar for southeast Queensland as well. Dry, warm and sunny for Tasmania, Victoria, inland New South Wales, inland Queensland, South Australia, Northern Territory and much of Western Australia as well, as the next high pressure system starts moving into WA. So generally a pretty dry day for much of the country, just apart from those showers on the east coast. Let's have a look at all of that in more detail. Firstly, in Queensland, you can see those onshore showers, particularly in southeast Queensland, and also running parallel to much of the rest of Queensland, probably more widespread on the North Tropical Coast and also far southeast Queensland as well. Temperatures in the mid to high 20s for much of the coastal areas of Queensland, getting into the high 20s to low 30s for inland parts of Queensland, staying warm, dry and sunny there. Southeast Queensland, those coastal showers may send a little bit further inland, but unlikely to get to very far past the ranges. Brisbane looking at showers and 26 degrees. Jumping down into New South Wales, and for inland areas we're going to see another very warm, dry and sunny day. The only wet weather being pretty much Newcastle north, even maybe getting down to around Sydney and Wollongong could see an isolated shower, but they will be more widespread through the Hunter, mid-north and up into the northern rivers, extending inland towards the ranges as well, thanks to that onshore flow. While further inland, as I mentioned, and further south, we'll see dry conditions under that high pressure system. Sydney looking at a couple of showers and 24 degrees. Canberra looking at 22 and partly cloudy skies there after a chilly start, getting down to around 2. Victoria looking at another dry and sunny day for much of the state. That's continuing the trend that we've seen over the last few days. Once again, temperatures in the mid to high 20s, almost statewide. A little bit cooler though up in northeastern parts of the state and right near the coast, but otherwise another warm, dry and sunny one for much of the state. 25 degrees and partly cloudy conditions in Melbourne. Down into Tasmania, a similar story there thanks to the high pressure system and warming up as well, getting to the mid to almost high 20s for some parts of southeastern Tasmania and even across eastern areas as well, looking quite warm. A little bit cooler though across the north coast thanks to those onshore winds due to those northerly winds, but also mild as well for our west coast as well with partly cloudy conditions. Hobart looking at a warm 26 degrees and partly cloudy. Moving up into South Australia, continuing that trend of warm, dry and sunny weather thanks to that slow-moving high pressure system. Temperatures in the high 20s to near 30 degrees for much of the state with widespread sunshine for many as well. Adelaide looking at a dry and partly cloudy day and 27 degrees. Moving over into WA, and while we might have a few showers with this trough system in far eastern parts of the state and also a couple of showers down there in the far southwest coast, otherwise we're going to see another fairly dry, warm and partly cloudy day for many. Just a couple of isolated showers or storms there with a weak trough there through the goldfields, but generally most are going to have a warm and sunny day. Low to mid 30s up in northern parts of the state, low 20s for much of southwestern parts of WA. Perth looking at partly cloudy conditions and 21 degrees. And then up into our tropical north, or dry season just starting to kick in for many areas. So you can see it's pretty dry here from Cape York across the Gulf, across the top end and even into the Kimberley as well. Although those easterly winds may bring a few showers here along eastern parts of the top end, but southern and central parts of the NT and also much of the Kimberley and Cape York looking at a dry, warm and sunny one. Darwin looking at 34 degrees and partly cloudy skies. And with not much weather going on around the country, but with the Anzac Day coming up on Saturday, you can get the latest forecast and warnings for your area and for interested for the dawn services by our website and app. And I'll be here again tomorrow for your weekend forecast.
And that's about it for our show today. Thank you so much for your company. Sorry for getting a bit fired up, but I think government needs to look after its citizens. And the garbage that the CFA get, and they're doing a magnificent job with vehicles that shouldn't be on the road. Simple as that. And as for those farmers with their land and government wanting to come on the land, whether it's Victoria or we've seen it in with the fire ants in those ants in Queensland, and other states are doing the same with either transmission lines, windmills, or fire ants. Country's stuffed, isn't it? We need to take it back. We need to do what is right. You know, go back to some common sense. That's all, common sense, and look after those on the land, because it ain't easy. We don't want to make it any harder, because in the city you will suffer. As simple as that. That's it. I will catch you tomorrow. Same bale of hay, same phone box. Be kind to yourself, be kind to your neighbours. Thank you very much for being part of our show. Enjoyed your company very much. This is the Country Telegraph.